Hello, and welcome to Wake and Bake News, and I'm your host, Shampoo BTA, Kelly Davis. And how are you this Thursday, the 28th of July, 2016? I'm having some yogurt of sweet revenge. Yo, play of sweet revenge. It's a peach tasting revenge. Why am I having revenge today? Well, you see, I am remembering a little girl that I used to be who sometime at her grandparents' house, sometime on a weekend in the 70s, happened to turn on the television and saw a couple of old men, white guys, sitting in some sort of white, futuristic, groovy 1960s chair on I think, some sort of raised platform, arguing about whether or not women could serve in the military, whether or not you would allow your daughter, your wife, your mother. No, women are weak and must be protected by men. And I thought, sucker, you don't know my ass. I must have been 7. I don't know fucking how old I was, but it was early days. Then later. Hmm. Then later, as I was at Fuzzy Taco Francisco Torres at UCSB in Santa Barbara, visiting with my boyfriend, Apple. And I stood there and watched a large group of up-and-coming Republicans who were planning to be part of Fortune 500 companies and wanted to have stickers on their BMWs that said things like the one with the most toys at the end or at death wins, you know, Reaganites. I watched them jeer and boo and cheer for George Bush as he went after fucking Geraldine Ferraro. As he brought up the point that a woman could never be commander in chief because she's never served in the military, and therefore she could never send men into battle or understand battle or blah, 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 blah. And you know what? The Secretary of the United States, Hillary Clinton, just took 30 years of male chauvinist arguments and made it into Yoplait yogurt for me to eat on this beautiful Thursday after I got nice and stoned from legal marijuana. So here's my message echoing back in time to fucking Richard Nixon. Bitch, this is what you get for making my parents fight in the living room that night. That night you gave that fucked up speech about how you weren't a crook. It took me a long time, but I got my yogurt. So, like her or not, like Hillary Clinton or not, she's got breasticles like me, and she is something that brings life into this world and not death. All right? So, I would prefer this sitting in the Oval Office, this, where babies come out, where life comes out, a portal to the next world, where heaven awaits, or whatever the fuck, right? Women are a portal to existence for all of us. In the White House, sitting in the chair, enjoying that in the Oval Office chair, so squishy on my pussy. Not this all the time, right? This is going to be cleaning the house and taking care of the home while Hillary Clinton is rocking her ass all over the country and the world because she's going to be able to, unfortunately, she will be able to cut deals with Republicans that are in a failing fucking party, and I'm going to show you why they're failing. She'll be able to leverage them. So, my little progressive children, I can show you a pathway to the future through the Democratic Party. Yes, eventually you will go head to head and toe to toe with the Democrats. But right now, in order for you to gain power, you must play a little cards with them, just as I have to as an independent. But as you'll see, our movement is growing, and we are just as scattered and dysfunctional as the Democrats were for the past 30 years. But now you see them coalescing into this thing that you want to change. That change is still out there, like it was for me when I was your age. And look at the yogurt I get to eat. Ooh! Mmm. 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 Hillary Clinton yogurt. Mmm. Oh, it's good. It's creamy. It's like an orgasm. It's nice. Mm. A peachy orgasm. Mm. Healthy. There we go. Mm. My breakfast. Okay. So I made a little video for you with some music. And I thought I would share it with you to break your Republican hearts. Because this is the end. What you thought was the end, your doom, your destruction, your Waterloo, your jump the shark is indeed, in fact, and true as day. The end. And I can show you. So here is California Millennials in a story called Millennials on the Rise. Apparently this is taken from USA Today's Frank Luntz, Young Voters Spell Doom for the GOP. Now, Frank Luntz is a dude that works for the Republicans. That's one of the, if you've seen his show, what he does is, see, I don't have to see myself so I can tell you. He has like an audience, right? And he stands there and the candidates have a debate, and then he has them hold little clickers, or he asks them after the debate what they think, and he picks out some, you know, his stuff is close, you know, but still good enough that when the election's over, he can come back next year and spew some more bullshit. So his stats are a little bit scary close. Not perfect, you know, but still. So basically what he's saying, trying to drum up the, you know, the conservatives and get them to react, is to say that you're about to lose the millennials, which is exactly right. Especially when you look at what's going on here in California with the Republican Party. So I'm going to show you this little video I made with the chart. There's a cat out there that loves this somewhere. I would love to introduce that cat to my bird. You may eat my bird. Anyway, so here is this chart and some of the pieces out of this piece for drama's sake. KCET, California Millennials surging. As they become of age and register to vote, millennials, that the enormous generation born in 1981, are surging so fast that they are on the verge of overtaking the baby boomers, behemoth as a share of the California electorate. And new evidence confirms that so far, at least, the GOP is losing them. Fewer than 1 out of every 5 millennial voters in California is registered as a Republican. Not that the Republicans' loss is the Democrats' gain. Recent voter data shows that millennials are the driving force behind the huge growth in California's registering with no party affiliation at all. Good for you kids. They're also more optimistic than other generations. The latest polls show them more approving than their elders of the job the legislation is doing and far more supportive of the direction in which California is headed. Their emerging demographic means that 20 and 30-somethings are well positioned this year to influence several critical questions, including the general changing of the guard as two Democrats compete to replace retiring U.S. Senator Barbara Boxer, and the fate of 17 ballot measures covering issues as varied as the death penalty, gun control, and marijuana. As far as states' issues over which millennials are most likely to visibly wield their power, many people point to Prop 64, the initiative to legalize recreational use of weed. That was the prediction of Rep. Eric Swalwell, don't say that wrong, D. Dublin, Democrat Dublin, as he addressed a recent U.S. Berkeley conference focused on the generation. So I hope young people show up to vote, he said, because once California legalizes marijuana, I think the rest of the country is going to follow. Yes, they will. Millennials today make up 29% of the state's registered voters, the second largest share among 5 living generations. Only baby boomers at 32% comprise a bigger block for now. You've got to think of millennials as essentially becoming the largest single segment of the electorate, said Paul Mitchell, Vice President of Political Data Incorporated, who analyzed California voter registration data by generations. Millennials rising. California voter registration by generation. Silent generation. Gen X, that's, 50s, me's, our generation, 1965, that's me. Millennials, and baby boomers. You're the wave that I'm riding, kids. I'm riding your wave, baby. I see it, I'm paddling in. Their dominance among California registered voters has been climbing steadily since the generation hit voter age in 2000. This spring, tech-savvy millennials propelled a surge in voter registration. Nearly 200,000 Californians signed up to vote over 2 days in May, when a Facebook campaign linked users to the state's online registration portal, and nearly 2/3 of them were 35 and younger, according to Secretary of State Alex Padilla. Now, other tech companies are expressing interest in promoting voter drives on their platforms, potentially further boosting registration among millennials before the November election. Padilla said he's in talks with Google and Twitter. It's great to see the social media world really committing to this. It's really helpful and powerful, he said. How potent this generation really is at the polls comes down to one question. Will they actually vote? Though young people typically have low turnout rates, they could be more motivated this year by the turbulent presidential election, which then would have spillover impact on California races with long-lasting implications. If they vote, I think there will be significance in any numbers, if not at all, of the initiatives, said Gail Kaufman. I didn't do that one right. A political consultant running campaign for Prop 64 to legalize marijuana, the Prop 54 to extend income tax on the wealthy, and issues like guns, the death penalty, and marijuana should evoke a lot of interest at the campaign level and moving through millennial social issues or value issues tend to energize young voters. Opponents of marijuana legalization plan to deploy a campaign designed to raise concerns about specific aspects of Prop 64, especially those that could be to parents. I'm sorry, be salient. Oh, salient to parents. I think the concept polls well. I don't think the details poll well, said Andrew Acosta, a political consultant working on the campaign against Prop 64. Once you start to open this thing a little bit, there might be there may be things that turn people off. Enough things to turn back the tide of change. I don't know. Still, many millennials have their minds made up pretty much. Voters age 18 to 34 favor legalizing marijuana by a 2-to-1 margin, far greater than older voters, according to a Public Policy Institute of California poll in May. Hours before Rep. Swalwell passionately endorsed Prop 64 in Berkeley. One conference participant said it was the only initiative on California's long ballot this year that he was aware of, and he plans to vote yes. We've had medical marijuana in California for about 20 years, said Chris Jonigan, 29, a substitute teacher who lives in the Bay Area. It seems like we're past due to have it legalized on a recreational level. Marijuana legalization may be the first issue in which millennial voters cast their decisive vote in California, but it certainly won't be the last. Use your power now to gain more power in the future, kids. So get out and vote, kids, okay? Because it's like when the Republicans sucked up the religious right, or they sucked up the disenfranchised Southern voters because they were unhappy with seeing the hippies protesting the war and spitting on Vietnam vets, which they shouldn't have done. And I don't think all of them did. But also they didn't like seeing the Black Panthers and all this kind of stuff scared them. So just in the same vein, in many ways, you have to consolidate your power, because that way you steal the party. So they steered it towards something bad. You can take the reins through your momentum and your wave and steer whatever party you want into something good, And parties change. I mean, remember that Republicans were once a party of Lincoln. Parties change. It's like, Shazam! I'm different! It looks like the Republican Party's changing into shit. Okay, next story. Oh, okay. This is this like fucking amazing watermelon drink that it's apparently like juiced watermelons, and then they put diced watermelon in it with lots of ice over at Taco de Guadalajara here in Ventura, which is a Mexican restaurant, right? And then sugar, and oh my god, it was so nice and refreshing in the heat yesterday. I brought some home and saved it. It's just like pure sweet watermelon-y tasting. Okay, so I'm going to read this story. What's the deal with the 51-foot joint at the DNC? Parading outside the DNC. What's the deal with the 51-foot joint parading outside the DNC? Leafly. Not quite in the same place. As the Democratic National Convention opened on Monday, a band of cannabis activists paraded through the streets of Philadelphia with two enormous 51-foot joints. The massive inflatable J's became an instant hit on social media thanks to this tweet by a pilot with the Philadelphia Police Department's aviation unit. Oh, yeah. It looks freaking hilarious. Like, I don't know, like a sex toy or something. It's just funny. Demonstration or not, definitely not something TAC Air sees every day. What's up with those joints? Here's the story. The joints are actually constructed with thick sheets of plastic, clear plastic, designed by Cesar Maxit, an Argentinian-born artist who now lives in Washington, D.C., widely known in the D.C. area for his activist art. Maxit hand-painted the plastic to resemble the emblematic symbol of cannabis. Hear us clearly now. The joints are not actually filled with cannabis, but rather with hot air, not unlike the convention's political orators. These ain't the first rodeo the 51-foot joints carriers, many of whom are members of the D.C. area activist group DCMJ, who traveled to Philadelphia for the convention. They first debuted Maxit's marijuana art back in April 20th during a march on the White House that ended with acts of civil disobedience, smoking, dabbing, and vaping at 420, just a few feet from President Barack Obama's backyard, where apparently his children play, and at the house that once slaves built, but had very nice quarters, apparently, according to disgusting fucking Bill O'Reilly moron. So if there are slaves out there looking for a nice place to stay, apparently the D.C. area is lovely, according to Bill O'Reilly. I didn't know he says the most ridiculous fucking things. It was like in Michelle Obama's speech. She was like, my children play in this backyard of the house that back when, the country first started, slaves were part of building, and this shows the progress. And of course, Bill O'Reilly had to go into, well, they were treated really nice. It's like saying, well, there's rape, and then there's rape, yeah? Oh, the Republican mindset. Interesting. Leafly caught up with Nikki Allen Poe, a prominent Philadelphian cannabis activist and comedian who helped lead the procession through downtown yesterday. He gave us the rundown on the response. Marijuana is so normalized now that people in the city are so supportive, Poe said. He described a generally positive reception to carrying of the two 51-foot joints. They called it the jaywalk. It was funny. We met with the cops on Friday. We met the police and talked to them about marijuana at the DNC. We sat down with them and we talked about the issue. The group led a jaywalk on Monday in protest of the DNC and in favor of legalization, and carried the slogan burned by the DNC, referring to the loss of Bernie Sanders as a viable pro-legalization candidate, and the underhanded tactics of the DNC chair, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who resigned after WikiLeaks posted initial emails showing the party favored Hillary Clinton over Senator Bernie Sanders. The other joint carrier dual message on each side was Hillary, deschedule cannabis now, and ending the racist drug war now. Both sides are punctuated by the word legalize. I love that. And Debbie Wasserman Schultz was no supporter of legalization. She thinks marijuana is dangerous. Loss of the DNC chair, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, is a boost for cannabis legalization, even though she got promoted to a soft, cushy chair facing a window where she can copy a dictionary. Like the redheaded lead. She can sit there and copy a dictionary. This is your new job. You'll be paid well. Go away now. Rather than asking for a rescheduling of cannabis, which Hillary has made vague promises towards, the group is demanding the complete descheduling of cannabis, which would mean removing it entirely from the Controlled Substance Act. That would be the drug on par with tobacco and alcohol in terms of federal regulation, which makes perfect sense. Poe also mentioned upcoming advocacy on the final day of the Democratic National Convention, a cannabis pride parade that will convene at 3 p.m. on Thursday at South Broad Street and West Oregon Avenue. We're just doing our best to normalize the culture here, he said. That's why we're doing the Cannabis Pride Parade on Thursday. This is a good time. Our movement is moving forward. Is Hillary Clinton evolving on cannabis? Maybe, slowly, a little. So the next story I'm going to talk about kind of touches on this very issue about just completely descheduling marijuana, the same as alcohol and tobacco. And here is kind of a kicker on that whole idea. Because there's a story here that says that the FDA approved synthetic liquid marijuana compound. Right? I think this is Popular Science. One must wait for the ad to count down. Anyway, this is a synthetic marijuana that they've apparently scheduled at Schedule 3. And says, oh, this is safe because it doesn't give you the high or whatever like this. And yet synthetic marijuana, isn't that K2? Isn't that exactly the kind of thing that people are getting sick from in New York? It's just now a pharmaceutical company's producing it, so it's okay. Is that what's going on? And then it gets scheduled to fucking Schedule 3. Explain to me what the difference is between K2 and a legal form of marijuana, supposedly. Popular Science Health. FDA approved synthetic liquid marijuana compound. FDA, drink weed every day, sorta. The FDA just approved a new synthetic THC product for us in treating a variety of ailments in liquid form, but despite being the first liquid THC replacement on the market, this may not be worth the buzz. Syndrose is a liquid dronabinol, I don't know what that is, which is a synthesized version of THC or tetrahydrocannabinol. The FDA approved it this week as a Schedule 3 drug, essentially calling it safe and free of addictive tendencies, in comparison with marijuana, which remains a Schedule 1 drug alongside heroin. Dronabinol has been around since the 1980s. It's generally regarded as less effective for a number of reasons, not the least of which is that it lacks other compounds from natural marijuana that, when mixed with THC, create the effects everyone seems to be willing to break the law to get. The liquid form may be easier for the body to absorb than dronabinol in pill form. At least for now, there's another legal option for some fighting potential people suffering pain, potentially for people suffering pain, nausea, epileptic seizure, Alzheimer's, and the drones of other ailments, diseases, and symptoms marijuana is proven to help combat. No word on whether it falls under the same legal code as recreational marijuana in states where that has been legalized. But if Snoop happens to begin marketing a special beverage in the next year, it may be connected. So it looks like the only thing that's new about that is that they have it in liquid form. It's actually been around since the 80s and it doesn't work. So moving on. You know, nice try, whatever. I guess if you enjoy the gray market, you go with that. If you enjoy the black market, you go with that. FDA, you go with that. DEA, go ahead. Okay, so moving on to more interesting news. There's a couple of things I just like to touch on before I get into the last story, and that is number one. Number one. This is fun to talk about. I guess the last week, which I've been ignoring because it's stupid. I ignore all the stupid, hypey type stupid stories. Anyway, so there is this story that was going around that more kids had been poisoned. I might have talked about a little bit in Colorado. Since marijuana was legalized, they accidentally picked up a marijuana cookie or candy, and oh my god, was rushed to the emergency room, and oh, the sky is falling, right? Okay, so now, of course, here we go. So now, of course, like the Washington Post, I think it was, or somebody came out with, no, that is totally fucking stupid. And if you want to know what you should really be worried about is there's a hell of a lot of other dangers to your kids besides poison. So I'll just tell you that it's the Washington Post. Your kid is way more likely to be poisoned by crayons than by marijuana. So you can go there and see that story, and it just is like, hello, grow up. Not to mention, see, here's how this works. And I thought of it immediately when they said that. I was like, oh, well, you see, there's all these other people that poison kids and endanger kids way more. Why don't I just go find a pie chart? Because it's like pulling another bully off the playground and going, he's talking about you. Well, he's talking about me, but you see how eventually it'll get around to talking about you. And the bully goes, you're right. Where is he? See, the enemy of my enemy is my new friend. My new friends. You know, piss off some more people that are bigger than me and you because they want to protect their household chemicals or pools. Apparently, children die more of drowning in pools or falls or things like this, or toys or something poisoned by normal objects, and marijuana falls way down on that chart. And as a matter of fact, doesn't harm any children at all. They just have a little bad experience, you know? So, with that story, and who didn't see that coming? It's just like they try to attack, and it's just like the Matrix. I'm like, really? Dude, you're like, you know, remember that scene, the Matrix was like, boop, 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 let's look at that. Anyway, like I was saying, that took me a while to get that little clip, but it just wax on, wax off. Like, really? Poof, 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 poof. We're going to try to convince all the parents that your marijuana is so much more dangerous than the drug war that it creates. than the guns that proliferate, than the gangs that, grow out, than El Chapo, than, all this sort of illicit drug stuff that's been going on for years. It's like what happened with Prohibition. By the end of it, everybody was somehow tied into bootlegging because it just grew. It Prohibition gave it the atmosphere in which it could, crime could proliferate because it wasn't regulated. You literally handed over a market to the criminals and refused to do anything except bust the consumers in that market, not understanding how markets work, not understanding the power of markets, and then completely mischaracterizing what the battle was about. There was, against some sort of outrageously dangerous drug that had absolutely no medical use. It helps cure cancer. Oh shit. Cures cancer. Oh shit. Helps kids with epilepsy. Oh shit. All kinds of oh shit is going on right now, which to me is like, oh, the universe has a really interesting sense of humor. So that's that story. Now, the next one is interesting. Apparently, now that we're being accepted, much like what happened with gays, which I thought was wonderful, and now it's so fascinating what happened to me and my husband. I think that's a whole side story. I went from seeing something on PBS back in the 70s because we were living in Oxnard, and it was with David Bowie. He just had a little short piece in, or his music or something was in it. But it was this young guy in Britain, and he was hot. He was like a punker with this really cute, like freaking loincloth, British flag, and fucking gorgeous, gorgeous punker kid. Gay, right? And the entire piece, video piece, was about his experiences going to meet friends and hanging out in a nightclub that was all very wild and eccentric and different and stuff. And later on, meeting up with a lover and having sex and showing men pushing against each other and being excited by that. And as a young girl, I was like, wow, I could see now. That seems sure, why not? Like as a kid, I thought, well, but those parts don't work. But I thought, well, I could see it. Then later, going through the entire experience of meeting people in school and stuff that talked about it or came out later as homosexual or something, I still felt very distant from it. But things got more and more open. I remember the first experience of seeing my son kissing another guy. That was like, whoa. I said, okay. And he goes, they were offended that I reacted this way. And I said, no, try to understand my point of view. This is like a little bit like, whoa, like I've never seen genitals before. So I'm like, seeing them for the first time. Kind of, it's glaring. It's like taking your sunglasses off and looking at the blinding sun of truth. It's a little, oh, I'm out of the cave. Whoa, yeah. Let me just adjust my eyes to this new brightness and wonderfulness. And now, then later, they started showing a lot more gay couples on television, and they started having gay people be intricate parts of storylines. And now it's like, it's so cool to actually go, like, there was a series about the end of the world that was coming out of Britain, and one of the American generals and some kind of Secretary of State or something were having a love affair. They were two guys. I thought that was really, actually, very touching because they had to do some terrible things because the world was coming to an end. It was a comedy too. Anyway, they had to do these terrible things because the world was coming to an end. And, and then they had to hold each other when everybody went away. And I thought, wow, that's just adds this really strangely humanistic point of view to military guys, to see that they feel and maybe they are holding each other in the foxholes and crying, and that makes everything so much more palatable and easy to go. Oh yeah, I can see that. I understand that. That's not so culturally like whoa, it's going to happen for us too, because there are other people out there that feel the same way I did about gay marriage, and seeing gays openly express love and hearing those arguments over the years and thinking in my brain, well, how do I feel about this? And what is really fair? And what do I really think the church should think about this and stuff? And I'm like, every time I came up with love is the highest law. That's just all I know. Seems like there's plenty of songs about that. I'm pretty sure Jesus said that somewhere. Love is the highest law. I think it's because it's probably the most productive, the most logical. Evil seems to be based on things like ego, greed, need, fear. You know what I mean? So it seems like evil is based in things that are illogical and emotional. So as we move into a time where people become more maybe rational, less evil, let's hope. Because you just think in the long run, well, really, what is this going to do for me? You know, it's like at one time people used to pillage and raid and shit like that. Okay, so let's see. The other story, okay, so I got in the television thing, da 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 da. So what am I talking about? Apparently, John Malkovich is doing a television series. So there's all these marijuana shows are coming out, and like I'm saying, thinking about the gay marriage thing and everything, being stoned. So like gay marriage, people like me are going to be shocked, so they need to be seeing us and normalized. And part of that is a drama about Humble, which is what apparently John Malkovich is going to be in. Now, it's a crime drama, and it's about a Humboldt family that is dealing in the illicit market of marijuana, and I'm assuming during the time of Prohibition, not today, because they just regulated everything. They just regulated everything up there. So I'm assuming this is a sort of Breaking Bad kind of thing. Tiki! He sees a birdie. He sees a birdie. Alrighty. So the last story that I wanted to get to after this little news tidbit is in a first, Oregon State Fair to feature marijuana plants. So I'll read this to you. In a first, Oregon State Fair to feature marijuana plants. The Oregon State Fair celebrates oddities like the curviest vegetable and the most misshaped fruit. Fairgoers can marvel over award-winning onions and pumpkins and snap photos of the top pig and llama. This year, the state fair is adding a new attraction, prize-winning marijuana plants. For the first time, Oregon's marijuana crop will be on display at the annual event, which runs August 26th through September 5th. Don Morse, chairman of the Oregon Cannabis Business Council and sponsor of the marijuana exhibit, said 9 plants will be displayed in a greenhouse that will have its own entrance and exit. The area will be monitored by a security guard. Only people 21 and older will be allowed in. Fair officials said the inclusion of cannabis plants is a nod to the newly legal status of the crop. This is really a reflection of where Oregon is now as a state, said Don Cox, spokesman for the fair. He said the state fair is an exclusive sort of forum, especially when it comes to agricultural commodities. He said the fair is moving in the direction that the entire state is moving. Morris said the plants will have ribbons just like any other prize-winning crop. The plant will come to the fair having already been judged by a panel of marijuana growers, including Ed Rosenthal, a well-known author and cannabis expert. We are doing it 4-H style, he said. You get a blue, purple, or yellow ribbon. We are celebrating the plant as a farm crop from Oregon. Fairgoers hope for a sample will be disappointed. I'm sorry, Fairgo is hoping for a sample will be disappointed, Morris said. We are not promoting the use of cannabis, he said. We are there to show plants to people over 21 that award-winning cannabis plants look like. So that's pretty normalization. And in order to show crops like that, that means that it can't be a Schedule 3 drug either, like this synthetic marijuana. So what is it exactly that the DEA and the FDA are planning to do? You know, and still no sound, no peep, nothing from the DEA. And this is now almost the end of the Democratic convention. So we certainly have rubbed elbows and made friends, and we're moving in the right direction. But I don't think anyone's actually spoken out. I did get to see our future governor, Gavin Newsom, speaking, and that was exciting. And it was very interesting, too. Okay, so, but he didn't talk about marijuana. Let's see, there was one last thing I wanted to show you, and that was the video I made. I'm like, why is it making so much noise? It's hotter than shit. That's why I have the fan going. Sorry. Anyway, so the last thing I wanted to show you is don't say I don't show you weed porn on the show. So here is my son and I smoking a joint, you know, to celebrate having the first woman president and the coming together of him as a millennial and me as a Democrat to join forces to beat Donald Trump. And also for the giant 51-foot joints that were snaking up and down around the DNC that they apparently no one sees, even though aircraft can see them and people can see them from space. The DNC, you know, cannot speak of any of this on the floor, you know, during this convention. Typical. We're not quite there yet. Arrgh. All right, so I'll show you this video, and you stay high and goodbye, and I will see you on tomorrow. We still got Friday to go. Who knows, maybe there'll be something more other than silly hot air.